We begin tonight with the Arewa Consultative Forum's scathing criticism of President Bola Tinubu and the ruling All Progressives Congress. The Northern socio-political group says the president and his ruling party are too obsessed with getting re-elected in 2027 at the expense of actually governing the country. In a statement signed by its National Publicity Secretary, Professor Muhammad Baba, the ACF lamented public policy responses to the insecurity situation, especially in the northern part of the country, which he says remains ineffective. The group praised Nigerians for their resilience in the face of wanting leadership, while reprimanding the federal government's alleged reckless spending and budget padding. Former Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Olufalaye, has made a case for the creation of state police in Nigeria. He insists Nigeria must adopt state policing to ensure better security across the country. The presidential candidate in the 1999 election says Nigeria had community police in major towns before the 1967 Civil War and doesn't see why policing should not be decentralized in 2025. Olufalaye says he feels very passionate about the state police matter because every government, whether at the state or federal level, must have the power to enforce the law. Minister of the FCT, Nyesom Wike, has commended the leadership of President Bola Tinubu for ensuring the successful completion and execution of infrastructural projects across within the territory. This commendation comes ahead of the inauguration of 17 key projects slated for Tuesday, June the 10th to July the 3rd. Wike, during a last-minute inspection, visited several of the projects and expressed delight at the state of works, including the support of the president.
Prudent financial management is key. Nobody can claim that he has all the resources in the world, but the ability to manage prudently is what is more important. We went to the International Conference Center. You can see how beautiful it is for world-class standards. We've been to the N5, done by Julius Berger, see the quality of job. We've been to Gishiri, see the quality of job done by CGC. Now we're in Norsex, we're going to to Wasa and see the quality of jobs. I mean, what would anybody say other than to say, God will thank you that we have been able to fulfill the promises the Renew Hope agenda made to the people of FCT.
To security matters now. The Nigerian Army says it is committed to the highest level of professionalism and will continue to ensure its officers adhere strictly to the rules of the security agency. The theater commander of the Army's operation, Hadinkai Abdusalam Abubakar, was speaking to newsmen in Maiduguri, the Borno state capital, and says the Army is currently weeding out bad eggs within its ranks.
We don't have a 100% record. I've tried to be very open to you today. On the screen now, we're talking of the issue of armed racketeering. You can see that even some of our own have been sent to jail. So for those that are recalcitrant that are caught, the rod is not spared. You face all the lines of operation that we need to face to carry out disciplinary action, and you are handed over to the civilian authorities for your jail term. Right now, we have over 69 people pending court-martial. Some are awaiting the confirmation of their trial. So we don't spare the rod where issues of human rights. It is not the terrorists against the armed forces. It is the terrorists against Nigeria as a nation. So once we begin to understand this and have a common front, I think we will be able to make a very tangible headway.
The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Olufemi Oluyede, has assured the Army's commitment to collaborating with citizens in the war against insecurity and terrorism. Oluyede made this known during a special salad luncheon organized for troops of Subsector 6 under Operation Fasanyama in Fatika, Giwa local government area of Kaduna State. News Central correspondent Joshua Imarayi reports.
The salad launching in Fatika, Giwa local government area of Kaduna State, was more than a meal. It was a gesture of gratitude from the Army High Command to troops on the front lines. Soldiers under Subsector 6 of Operation Fasanyama were tasked to remain resilient as they combat banditry and insurgency in the region.
As the commander of one division, I will continue to do everything possible to ensure a safer environment under my watch. I also want to urge the troops not to rest on their oars, but to redouble their efforts to ensure that there is no safe place remaining for any extreme violent insurgent within this environment.
Representing the Chief of Army Staff, the Chief of Logistics, Major General Erema Kerejola, lauded the troops' professionalism and dedication, assuring them of ongoing support and improved welfare.
This is also to identify with the locals, to assure them that we are here to protect them and that we will not rest on our oars in ensuring that their safety, their livelihoods are protected. The troops are encouraged and assured that they have not been forgotten. Their families are well, and their well-being will continue to be taken care of. Completely behind them, we are with them, and we will continue to make sure that everything they need will be provided.
He also conveyed the appreciation of Army leadership to President Bola Tinubu for his continued support to the armed forces.
To His Excellency Bola Ahmed Tinubu for his unflinching support, focused leadership, and strategic guidance. I sincerely appreciate Nigerians for their unwavering belief in the Nigerian Army and for their continuous support. The Nigerian Army remains resolute in defending Nigeria's territorial integrity against our nation's adversaries.
Officers and men who have distinguished themselves in the line of duty were awarded for their gallantry and their dedication to duty. The Army says that it will continue to combine military strength with non-kinetic strategies until peace is fully restored in every troubled region.
Let's take you back to our top stories about the Arewa Consultative Forum's scathing criticism of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the ruling All Progressive Congress. The Northern Socio-Political Group says the president and his ruling party are too obsessed with getting re-elected in 2027 at the expense of actually governing the country. Now let's bring in a journalist and political analyst, Bola Olajuwon, who is going to be talking to us further about these criticisms. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Is this a fair criticism of the president?
Hello? Hello, sir. Hello, ma.
Absolutely, we can hear you.
I can't hear your question.
My question is this a fair criticism of the president? The Arewa Consultative Forum says the president is too busy trying to get re-elected in 2027 instead of actually governing the country. Is this a fair criticism of the president?
Fair criticism of the president. Okay, let's look at it from this perspective. The Nigerian political landscape is full of minds. Minds in the sense that everybody wants to be up and doing. And in doing that, they are being biased. Biased in the sense that they are ethnocentric. Ethnocentric in the sense that their tribe matters most to them. That is the implication of what Arewa is putting forward. Between me and you, there's no substance in what Arewa is saying. Who is not campaigning? Who is not doing politics? Politics is about conspiracy. Conspiracy of getting the best to yourself. Okay? Do you want to tell me that the PDP, the SDP, the Atiku groups, the people like Arufai of this world, they are not doing politics. Even the people joining the APC, they are equally doing politics. What are we saying? Okay, let me tell you, this man came into being or into office as a politician. He rode on political landscape to be there. Are we saying, or is Arewa saying that Tinubu should keep quiet and be watching after 3 to 4 years? Let's be realistic with ourselves. Okay, fine. Let's look at it from this perspective. They spoke about Tinubu not doing something about the crisis in the northern states. Is it Tinubu causing it? Who are the people causing it?
He is the president, with all due respect. Everything falls and rises on leadership.
Wait, is it keeping quiet? Are we not hearing that, that he's giving directive to the armed forces to do something about the security situation? The Arewa people, are they talking to their people not to fight? Who are the people taking over people's territory? Who are the people killing? Let's be realistic to ourselves. People have been talking about something that the crisis we have in the north is a situation that we have is the extension of the situation we have in the Sahel. That people are moving in. What are they doing? What are the Arewa consultative members doing about it?
Holding the president accountable. Okay. All right, then. Thank you so much. We're going to have to leave it there tonight. Political analyst Bola Olajuwon, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Welcome back. You're watching Tonight on News Central. I'm Adeshawa Josh. A reminder of our top stories. Northern Group criticizes President Tinubu, says he's obsessed with his re-election ambition at the expense of nagging national issues. Former Secretary of the Government of the Federation, Olufalaye, joins advocacy for the creation of state police. US and China meet in London for first round of talks aimed at resolving escalating trade war between both nations. The Labour Party presidential candidate in the 2023 elections, Peter Obi, says he would have removed petrol subsidy too and floated the naira if elected president, but would have done so gradually and in a more organized manner. Speaking during an interview on Monday, the former Anambra State governor says though he supports the federal government's policies, implementation has so far been poorly managed. Obi describes the petrol subsidy system as rife with criminality and corruption, quote, and insists it was essential to end it. Renowned economist Professor Sherifuddin Teller has asked the federal and state governments to use money recovered from petrol subsidy to fix the economy, as well as address liquidity and shortages instead of borrowing from the IMF. Teller says the federal government's plan to secure new loans after removing petroleum subsidy doesn't make financial sense. Last month, President Bola Tinubu asked the National Assembly to approve his plans to borrow $21.5 billion from external sources. He also asked the lawmakers to issue a 757.98 billion naira domestic bond to address infrastructure deficits, social services, as well as to settle long-standing pension arrears. For more on this story, Iselin Agbon, a professor of petroleum engineering, joins me from Texas. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Would you say the money Nigeria is currently saving from fuel subsidy is enough to fund President Tinubu's development agenda?
Well, I think, first of all, there is no money being saved. There is no subsidy. What existed was corruption. Therefore, when people say subsidy is gone, an increased price, an increase in petroleum price is a tax on poor people. When Jonathan increased price in 2012, Tinubu said it was a Jonathan tax. So petrol prices today are nothing but Tinubu tax. It has nothing to do with subsidy. Let me explain. In 2019, we took a look at NNPC figures. They made a profit of $71 million, and they took a subsidy of $1.6 billion. This subsidy they claim was a non-existent subsidy. They just said this is the subsidy due to the losses we suffered because of corruption, government should pay us, and they deducted the money from us. In 2020, they made a profit of 2 billion. They claim they suffered a loss of 2.8 billion, which they claim was subsidy. And therefore, they took that as subsidy. When Tinubu came and said subsidy is gone, instead of saying corruption is gone, what happened is that he just increased price and put a tax burden on the poor in Nigeria. That's why there is no money. There was no subsidy. He just increased price. There was a lot of profit, and the profit due to the Tinubu tax have not been spent very well. So it's not a question of savings from subsidy if Tinubu tax has not been used for anything constructive. Tinubu is asking for 21 billion more loan. Dangote's refinery was 20 billion. So it's asking for additional loan that can build a whole refinery. Almost an equivalent 25 billion have been spent on our 4 refineries, and they have not been repaired. No consequences for the people who stole the money. In 2012, I wrote that there was no subsidy and showed that you could have the price of petrol was 40 naira a liter. Today, the price of petrol should be 760 naira per liter. Anything above that is just additional suffering for the people. For the people.
All right. So I just want to rephrase everything you said. You said there is no subsidy, and that an increase in price of petrol is basically whoever the president is taxed. To rephrase, basically, you're saying that petroleum subsidy in Nigeria is the alleged sharing of a substantial amount of money made from oil production instead of saving it in the government's coffers. Does that make any sense?
No. You see, what happened is this. We have petrol. We are an oil-producing country. And what happened is that when you want to look at how much petrol costs, when you take crude oil, you can make a crude oil that costs, for instance, today $76. When you refine it, you have a lot of product, not only petrol. You have a lot of product. You have 75 gallons of product, which you can sell for about $210. So when you refine it, you get more money. So you refine the petrol, you sell it for $210, but the crude oil costs you $70. So what the IMF said is that we should be pricing petrol in Nigeria like if we have no oil, we're importing the petrol and the refined product from abroad. That should be the price in Nigeria. But the price in Nigeria should not be based on an assumption that we have no petrol and everything is just being imported. We should compare ourselves with OPEC countries. When we compare ourselves with OPEC countries like Iran and Iraq, and we find out that we are paying far a tax on petrol that is far higher than they pay in Nigeria, where it's 552 naira a liter.
Isn't that why we now have refineries, allegedly?
Yes, but our refinery, what they've done with our refinery is this. The oil cabal, which is what Dangote is complaining about, they made sure our refinery was not repaired so they could import. When they import, they have a lot of corruption. Abdul Rashid Bawar, who was then EFCC chairman, just wrote a book called The Shadow of Loss and Loot, based on the corruption that existed in 2012, which they call subsidy. When Farouk Lawal Committee on Subsidy analyzed, he found out that almost $6 billion was being stolen and was being hidden under quote-unquote subsidy. So what is happening is corruption. And when you increase petrol, you increase the cost of food and everything, and you increase suffering on the poor. So an increase in petrol price is a tax on the poor. And Tinubu is wanting to tax the poor, but you should use it for development.
Right.
But
Professor Agbon,
use it for development.
Professor Agbon, my question to you is, are there any other alternatives to borrowing? Because
yes,
some allege budget padding and wasteful spending contributes to the federal government's lack of cash in the first place.
Yes, there is an alternative to borrowing. First and foremost, everybody will tell you that more than 50% of that budget you see for the country goes to waste, mismanagement, and corruption. So if you fill all the hole by making sure there are consequences for those in position of power who are really, really pushing corruption, then you will have more money than you actually borrow for the development of ordinary people in Nigeria. But when you do not want to remove corruption, or you do not make people who are powerful pay a substantial price for being corrupt, then you have a situation, it's like you are putting water in a basket. It is leaking. You can go and bring all the loan in the world. There will be no development because it's an empty basket. That's what happened when Abacha's fund was stolen and we got it back from Europe. In fact, the Europeans were very angry. They said all the money being returned to you is being stolen again and being put in our bank. So when you have leakages like a basket, whether you are borrowing, whether it's national budget, it will just leak and leak. Buhari is taking a basket and filling it with water and saying he's bringing it to the poor of Nigeria to drink. When he ran out of water, because the thing is leaking to the rich, he went and borrowed more water to bring to the poor. But the thing is leaking from that basket to the rich. So he's not dealing with the problem. That is why, despite all the borrowing in Nigeria, the poor are suffering from hunger. They can see no progress. That's why people are asking, where is this saving from subsidy if it is gone? Why are you saying, why is electric price increasing? I told them, for every naira, for 1% increase in the price of petrol, there is 11% increase in the price of other goods. In fact, there is a 33% increase in food. This is a multiplier effect for the economy. So this is the situation. He can go and borrow as much as he wants, but so long as 50% of what he borrows and what he has on the budget is being stolen by the rich and powerful, and the poor have no access to development, then we have no progress.
Very poignant. So analysts are saying that subsidy removal is actually a good thing. And I know that you disagree that there is subsidy in the first place. They're saying it's a step in the right direction. But the drastic rise in corruption, as you have alluded to, seems to be counterproductive. How do we replace the basket with a bucket as we go and get the water?
Well, what happened with the situation is we go back and analyze all the situation from way back to 2012 and everywhere, because the papers are there. The people who are responsible are still alive. Look at the last analysis that EFS did with the 1.5 billion for repairing a refinery. They found 80 billion naira in some account for some managers of NNPC. Have you given any news of what happened to those people? No. So if you want a bucket rather than a basket, the first thing you have to do is to show that irrespective of who you are not above the law. And if you are corrupt and you steal the money meant for all of Nigeria, you will pay a very, very high price. There must be consequences. If there are no consequences for corruption, you cannot really, whether it's OB or co, have any advance. And you should not, it is a very, very dangerous thing for you to call a lion a pussycat. Because if you call it a small pussycat and you go there and give it milk, it will eat you up because it is a lion. You cannot misidentify the problem of corruption as subsidy. Because then your remedy or the solution is not dealing with the problem. You are saying subsidy is the problem, low prices. I increase prices. When you increase prices, people don't have money to buy. When people don't have money to buy, demand drops. When demand drops, production drops. Foreign companies start to close. Small businesses start to close because they cannot afford the price of petrol in their small businesses where they use generator. There's more poverty in the land. So your economy have high unemployment and high inflation. You have a stagflation economy. You are borrowing models from abroad that doesn't have nothing to do with Nigeria. Once you've misidentified the problem, you cannot have a solution. So when you keep saying a problem caused by corruption, you redefine it as subsidy,
right,
then you have completely missed the issue.
We're going to have to leave it there tonight. Professor Izilian Agbon, thank you so much for your thoughts tonight. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
June is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, but in Nigeria, conversations around men's emotional well-being are still often met with stigma, as many men continue to suffer in silence. News Central's lead correspondent, Burna Boy, takes a closer look at the hidden struggles and the urgent call to support men's mental health in Nigeria.
In Nigeria's fast-paced, high-pressure society, men are often expected to be strong, unshakable, and silent. But behind many calm faces is a quiet struggle.
June is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month. But sadly here in Nigeria, conversations about men's mental illness is still met with shame, stigma, and silence. Until these are discussed, mental health for men will not improve.
Men's mental health in Nigeria has been culturally pushed aside, and it's not spoken about well enough like it is for women. And I feel that a lot needs to be done. It has to do with the reality of men's mental health in awareness creation.
According to the World Health Organization, men are far less likely than women to seek help for mental health issues. Experts say societal pressure and outdated notions of masculinity are partly to blame.
It's difficult for a man, a typical Nigerian man, to seek help or support for their mental health struggles because I would always say of the upbringing of a boy child who is not expected from the beginning, from childhood, to express their emotion.
Sadly, Nigeria lacks the mental health infrastructure to meet the growing demand. With fewer than 300 psychiatrists for over 200 million people, access to care remains a major challenge, especially for working class and rural men. While responding to a social media poll carried out on a blog, some Nigerian men explain how they handle mental health-related stress. Some of their responses were quite touching. Experts, however, say all hope is not lost. NGOs, support groups, family, workplaces, and even the media all have a role to play in addressing men's mental health issues.
It's okay, the Lagos State government is, setting up some facilities here and there now, and but it is not enough looking at the number of men. Workplace owners, founders of organizations, needs to understand that people who come to place of work have some things they deal with where they are coming from. The media has a way of projecting the masculinity of a man in the area of strength and close the lens of the camera to the weaknesses of the man.
As Nigeria continues to evolve socially and economically, so does the conversations around men's mental health equally have to evolve. Men should be allowed to feel and eventually to heal. In Lagos for News Central, Burna Boy.
On Sunday, one of the world's largest skincare brand, Nivea, brought color, energy, and education to Lagos as they launched the latest addition to their range of skincare products, the Nivea UV Face Sunscreen. News Centre's Sewesi Anyo has more.
It was a vibrant afternoon at Seoul Beach in Lagos as international skincare brand Nivea unveiled its latest sun care line. Guests showed up in beach chic outfits, enjoying games, music, and hands-on product trials in a lively tropical atmosphere.
We've invested a lot in innovation into this product, making sure that it actually does what we claim that the product does. So, for instance, we're calling out non-greasy. That's actually a fact. When you apply the product on your skin, it doesn't leave any greasy mark. we say it has a mattifying effect, and indeed there's no shiny effect after. But the most important factor is that it actually protects your skin from the harmful ray of the sun.
Girls and boys, it has zero greasy feel, zero white cast, so you don't have to be scrubbing your face and trying to make it all go away. It absorbs into your skin so easily. It gives you a matte feeling, so if you have oily skin, it helps to keep your skin dry or during the day, and it has SPF 50 at 11,000. Girl, don't sleep on it, oh.
But beyond the fun, there was a serious message, raising awareness about sun safety and everyday skin protection.
This product has buckets of potential. For us, our key focus is educating Nigerians on the need for sunscreen. A lot of Nigerians think that they don't need sunscreen because black don't crack, but the truth is that melanin-rich skin is still exposed and is still susceptible to the effects of the sunscreen, and that's our focus, is making sure that consumers know that they need sunscreen every single day so they can prevent the effects of the sun exposure.
One of the most significant is the fact that it protects against the sunburn, which could happen. I'm sure you know people have sunburns at times, right? So sunscreen protects against that. Secondly, some people have darkening of their skin. Sunscreen will protect you against that because the UV rays will cause that as part of the after reactions, okay? So that is the second thing. And then the third part of it is these ultraviolet rays or infrared rays, some of the rays are responsible for causing skin cancer. So it also protects against possibility of those, at least reducing the exposure to those rays. We prevent people from having skin cancer.
Nivea is a household name as far as Nigeria is concerned. We know and trust the roll-ons, the sprays, the lotions. We use them every day. This is just another addition into that lineup, but targeted to solve a specific problem of sun protection.
Nivea says its new formulations are tailored for hot, humid climates, light on the skin, deeply moisturizing, and designed for all skin types.
Every Nigerian, especially young active Nigerians, will use this product because it's actually coming at the right time as well. This is something that we've been looking for a long time.
A lot of consumers know about sunscreen, but they've used other sunscreens that didn't have a good or pleasant effect on them, leaving them with a greasy skin, white residue, but our product doesn't do that. No white residue or cast, no greasiness or sticky feel. It gives you a mattifying effect, so even if you're wearing makeup, you can still use the sunscreen. And last but not the least, the sun protection factor is 50, which is really good and robust for Nigerian skin.
We want to break all of those myths that people have when it comes to sunscreen usage. And the biggest one for us black skin is, oh, we're black, we don't need sunscreen. Baby girl, no, that's a lie. You need sunscreen because you need to protect yourself against skin cancer. You also need to prevent aging. Please, I want to look like this when I'm 80.
This amazing product is available online.
With more Nigerians spending time outdoors, whether for work, travel, or play, experts stress that protecting the skin is no longer optional but essential. In Lagos, for News Central, Sewisi Anyo.
And outside of Nigeria, tensions are running high in Kenya's capital, Nairobi, following the death of a 31-year-old man in police custody. Dozens of protesters gathered outside Nairobi City mortuary on Monday to demand justice for Albert Omondi Ojwang. Ojwang died shortly after being arrested over a social media post allegedly targeting a senior police official. A crowd holding placards and chanting "Stop Killing Us" later marched to the Central Police Station, where Ojwang was being held at the time of his death. Ojwang was arrested last Friday in Homa Bay, Western Kenya, after posting content on X critical of the Deputy Inspector General of Police, Eliud Lagat. Staying outside our shores, top U.S. and Chinese officials met on Monday in London for critical trade talks aimed at easing escalating tensions between both nations. Held at Lancaster House, the two-day negotiations follow a preliminary agreement reached last month in Geneva, for which both countries had lashed out at each other over allegations of agreement violations. White House economic advisor Kevin Hassett said the U.S. is seeking a clear commitment from Beijing, including a handshake on rare earth exports. With China's export to the U.S. down 34.5% in May and American growth slowing, both economies are now feeling the strain. Tonight returns with more Money Talks with Leko, sports and entertainment. Do stay with us. Welcome back. It's time for business news with Leko. Leko, what do we have tonight?
And so the NMDPRA, that is a major regulator in Nigeria's downstream sectors, actually launched a platform that enhances transparency and accountability in the sector's operations. I'll tell you more in a short while. The Nigerian Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority, in partnership with the Securities and Exchange Commission, has licensed JEX Market to operate Africa's first gas clearinghouse and settlement platform, according to a statement by the head of public affairs, NMDPRA, George Eneta. The platform will function as a commodity exchange for trading natural gas and its derivatives. It aims to enhance transparency and efficiency across the gas value chain. The approvals were granted after a rigorous due process situation, marking a milestone in Nigeria's energy market development. Nigeria's pension assets have exceeded 22.8 trillion naira, marking and making it one of Africa's largest institutional capital pools. However, the effective deployment of these funds in long-term infrastructure development is constrained by credit and liquidity risks. According to the Africa Finance Corporation's report, these risks limit the potential of pension assets to support infrastructure growth. The report highlights the need for solutions to unlock the potential of these significant institutional funds. Addressing these challenges is crucial for maximizing the impact of pension assets on Nigeria's infrastructure and economy, driving economic development and growth. We also tell you that Nigeria's electricity distribution companies recorded a revenue shortfall of 202.61 billion naira in Q1 2025, despite a 106.68% year-on-year surge in billing, of course, to about 761.91 billion naira. According to the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission, the discos collected only 559.3 billion naira, reflecting a collection efficiency of 73.4%. Although the volume of revenue increased compared to Q1 2024, the shortfall more than doubled from 77.03 billion naira. These highlights ongoing inefficiencies in bill recovery and wide performance disparities among discos, raising concerns about sustainability and investment in Nigeria's power sector. Finally, we tell you that stock market activity dipped during the holidays, shortened trading week as investors exchanged 3.214 billion shares worth 76.35 billion naira in 64,156 deals. This marks a 56.4% decline in transaction value compared to the previous week's 3.794 billion shares valued at 119.39 billion naira across 89,636 deals. Earlier today on Business Edge, Mukhtar Mohammed, CEO, Finance with Mukhtar, who was a guest, shared more insights on the market.
The fundamentals of the Nigerian market is still very strong. If you look at the results that were put in by these companies, especially the financial sector in the first quarter, despite the headwind in the economy, you saw that these numbers were very positive. They have very positive earning per shares also. And also you look at the drive towards recapitalization, you realize that a bank like Senate Bank and Access Bank have completed their recapitalization drive. GTCO is about to complete that, but it's going to do that also by attracting foreign investors or preferred investors. Fidelity Bank also have completed this recapitalization drive, oversubscribed also. First Bank also at the point of conclusion. So those are key drivers of those numbers that you see in the financial sector, especially when you look at these four banks or what we call the Fuga banks.
That's all on Business News. I am Lekon Onobanjo.
I'm now joined by Onyinye for some latest in sports news.
Yes,
what do we
of course.
have
Adeshawa, we've got Nigeria's representative. They will not be having a historic campaign at the Basketball Africa League for this year because they just suffered their second straight loss. I'll tell you more shortly. In sports, Nigerian side Rivers Hoopers endured a crushing 104-73 defeat to Rwanda's APR at the Sunbet Arena in Pretoria, South Africa. This is the second game for the 2025 Basketball Africa League on Monday. The result ended their hopes of repeating and surpassing the third-place finish in last season's tournament. Speaking after the match, Rivers Hoopers head coach Ogo Adaudu, he admitted the team struggled defensively, describing the effort as a terrible one on defense.
We gave up 52 points in the paint. It was terrible. We can't win a game playing that kind of defense. So that was exactly what happened to us. We had that kind of day where everything fell apart. So it's a tough loss, but we still hold our heads high and we'll come back better next time.
People scout teams, and sometimes you have to come with something different that they're not prepared for. I thought we did a good job of that tonight, and we were able to come away with the victory.
Away from there, Nigeria's southwestern city of Abeokuta is gearing to host the third edition of the Confederation of African Athletics African Junior Athletics Championship, scheduled to take place from July 16 to 2025. The prestigious biennial event will welcome the continent's most promising under 18 and under 20 athletes to the newly refurbished MKO Abiola Sport Complex, which recently played host to the 22nd National Sport Festival. Over 500 athletes from more than 50 African nations are expected to compete in this year's competition, making one of the most largest gathering of young athletics talent in the continent. Reigning champion South Africa will be looking to defend their title won in the last edition. Now, for the second successive year, the Mobolaji Johnson Arena, Lagos, will host the grand final of the President Federation Cup competition, which is scheduled for Saturday, 28 June 2025. The stadium hosted last year's grand final, in which El Kanemi Warriors defeated Abia Warriors to emerge winners of the men's competition, while Rivers Angels urged Niger Rachels 1-0 in the women's version. Lagos State has hosted a total of 60 grand final of the Nigeria's oldest cup competition, which was previously known past as the Governor's Cup, the FA Cup, the Challenge Cup, and the Federation Cup. This year's grand final will see surprise finalists Abakaliki FC of Ebonyi State taking on MPFL side Kwara United FC of Ilori in the men's final, while Rivers Angels of Port Harcourt will tackle Nasarawa Amazons of Lafia in the much-anticipated women's final. And that's it in the world of sport. I am Onyinyechi Obaru. The news continues shortly.
Welcome back. It's time for entertainment news with Sam Dandy. He has the latest on Thames's, well, let me not break it. Go on.
I mean, where do I even start? Do I say Afrobeat to the world or African stars are represented?
I think we should start saying Afrobeat to the world because we're already in the world. You know
I like
what I mean?
that. Well, Burna just got a new certification and Thames is making a historic performance set for July. I'll tell you all about it after this quick break. Another day, another win for the African giant. Burna Boy's feel-good anthem, It's Plenty, has just been certified gold in France, marking yet another international milestone for the Afrobeat superstar. Now, the hit track off his Grammy-nominated 6th studio album, Love Damini, produced by British-Ghanaian producer J5, continues to resonate with fans across the globe since its release back in 2022. Other songs on that album you must remember, Last Last or For My Hand with Ed Sheeran. The album peaked at #2 in Australia, Billboard's US World Album Charts. It went platinum in Denmark, and that song, It's Plenty, is gold in France, UK, and Canada. With It's Plenty now joining Burna Boy's growing list of internationally recognized songs, it's clear that the African giant is still on top. Speaking about Afrobeat stars, so yeah, should I say African stars, music and football are linking up like never before. Nigerian superstar Thames, Latin icon J Balvin, and genre-bending queen Doja Cat will headline the first ever halftime show at the FIFA Club World Cup Final. It's happening on July the 13th at MetLife Stadium in New Jersey. The historic show is being produced by Global Citizen and Coldplay's Chris Martin, with a mission to raise $100 million for the FIFA Global Citizen Education Fund. Now, of course, supporting access to quality education and football for children worldwide. Now, Thames says that she's ready to bring the world together for a beautiful moment, while J Balvin calls the gig a dream come true from medaling to MetLife. The global stage marks yet another major milestone for Thames as Afrobeats continues to dominate both charts and international arenas. This is impressive. I mean, Thames seems to know how to do this. Not only Billboard entries, she has the most Billboard entries for any African star, and she's performed across, I remember the Ashton Martin show. I don't know.
Listen, it takes a village. She has great management. She's willing to put in the work. There is one tree doesn't make a forest. So I cannot begin to imagine the kind of management she has. They must be so good. And,
you know what makes me
willing
happier?
to go all the way for her.
Women in music. You know, because back then people could say, you know, women didn't have a place. But now, not only Tiwa Savage, Ira Star, who just has 2 albums and is young, hitting over $1 billion. Yemi Alade got her first Grammy nomination last year. So I'm thinking it's definitely a fantastic time for women in entertainment.
And the fact that there is less of a public rivalry between these women, they are finding ways to support each other publicly, even if they punch each other in the face in private. But they're coming out to say, this is what we're about now. We're not going to let anyone divide us. I love that about them.
Honestly, I hope to see more parts of entertainment, you know, take front stage. Not only music, we want to see our films even do bigger, better this year.
I want our science to do great. How about that?
Did you say science?
Yeah.
Well, that is any part of Africa. You know what? Because we are resilient people, especially Nigerians. Especially Nigerians. Well, those are the biggest stories in entertainment. I am Sam Dandy.
Thanks, Sam. And that's the news tonight. But before we go, here's a reminder of our top stories. Northern Group criticizes President Tinubu, says he's obsessed with his re-election ambition at the expense of nagging national issues. Former Secretary to the Government of the Federation, Olufalaye, joins advocacy for the creation of state police. US and China meet in London for first round of talks aimed at resolving escalating trade war between both nations. Don't forget to send your eyewitness report to the WhatsApp number coming up on your screen right now. Follow us on all social media platforms. We are at News Central TV. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, GoTV channel 23, Star Times channel 274, AVO TV, and on YouTube. Thanks for watching. I'm Adeshawa Josh. I'll see you on Tuesday.